We're here with Kathleen Trinity on the anti-high-speed rail project. So, Mrs. Trinity, how would the high-speed rail affect the community?
The high-speed rail would generate a tremendous amount of noise, plus the structure and all of these structures that go with it, like roads, ingress roads, and structures for equipment would take up a lot of space. They actually want to carve a tunnel into the mountain too. So it would take up space, it would take habitat and homes out of our community, and it would turn us into an industrial urban area.
So how much noise can be expected to be associated with this project?
Well, if it's unmitigated, it could be up to 95 decibels. If it's mitigated, meaning that it has basically walls around it, then it might be mitigated down to about 75 or 80 decibels.
Now, how much noise is 80 decibels compared to like a kid's stereo?
You know, I don't know how loud kids turn their stereos up today. I imagine it's pretty loud. And it all, depends on the distance you are from the source. So if you're roughly 600 feet away from 85 decibels, it might go down to about 75. I'm not a scientist, so I'm depending on people to look at the charts we prepared, because I don't know this really, down to the details.
So this must take a lot of money. How are you fundraising to support this?
Well, we had a trail ride last Saturday and raised some money. We are just going around to different places collecting money, and we hope to have a spaghetti dinner and some other events in the future.
So where should people send money if they'd like to donate to this?
People should send money to CVAA, that stands for Canyons and Valleys of Acton and Agua Dulce, Post Office Box 1045, Acton, California 93510.
All right, thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. While we're just waiting for the last everybody to sit down, I thought you might like to hear a little message from our governor.
There's something a moment ago that I have to follow up on, and I have to throw you out on. You said you don't have to lie anymore now that you're not a politician. What did you lie about when you were governor?
We didn't tell a lie.
What did you lie about? What did you lie about?
All right, now here's what you run for this, and the assumption is, oh, I know what to do. You know, I didn't have a plan for California. Clinton doesn't have a plan.
So you said you had a plan. You said you had a plan for California. You lied because you didn't have a plan.
You say you're going to lower taxes. You're going to put people to work. You're going to improve the schools. The schools are we going to stop crime? Crime is up. Schools are worse. Taxes are higher. I mean, be real.
He's a loser.
Anyways,
Sorry.
I just thought that was kind of interesting because here's the guy the main person pushing this project. So anyways, good evening. My name's Bivey, and are we missing one person?
Pam Walter is back there, but she'll come up.
Anyways, we formed this group to gather information and inform ourselves and our neighbors about what's going on. The goal of reducing the impact on the high-speed rail. Our information has been gathered from electronic sources, written, and directly from the high-speed rail itself. Our goal or mission is to force the high-speed rail to stay underground and lessen its impact on our community. We know we cannot stop it. Stopping it will come from other groups who have lawsuits pending, one of which is being litigated tomorrow. So watch for that on the news. Hopefully it's favorable, but probably won't get a ruling right then. Anyways, Thomas Paine said, "It is not a field of a few acres of ground, but a cause we are defending. And whether we defeat the enemy in one battle or by degrees, the consequences will be the same." So tonight we have some speakers, and we hope most of your questions will be answered. But should they not, we'll gladly take questions at the end, and then, as Kathleen mentioned, there's signs and everything around here. We can go over it with you. Our first speaker is the person responsible for us being here. None of us had any idea the train was coming through. Once it moved away from the schools, everybody figured it was gone, and they believed it was gone for good. Kathleen Trinity found out differently. So please welcome our committee chair, Kathleen Trinity.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much for coming. We are Canyons and Valleys of Acton and Agua Dulce, a grassroots group of residents who are very concerned about what high-speed rail can do to our community. Here are some of the impacts that high-speed rail will have on Acton and Agua Dulce. Now, by the way, there might be a few technical terms here. I did try to simplify it, so please feel free to ask questions later on. I am not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I don't know that much detail, but I can tell you a few things, and we have some charts around and can give you some websites that, where you can study more about sound. Okay, the first impact is a very obvious one, noise. At its source, a high-speed train can generate 114 decibels at 220 miles an hour. More at a tunnel entrance or exit, where its sonic boom can be as high as 130 decibels. A decibel is a unit of measurement based on values of 10. Schools set their maximum decibels at 35. When a sound is measured in decibels, every 10 decibels, the noise is doubled. So if you are at 85, hearing 85 decibels, 95 decibels would be double the volume. So, you know, just imagine that being completely doubled.
Great turnout, and you get to listen to me twice, so get used to it. The first part I'm going to do, it was done by another one of our committee members, and she wasn't able to speak tonight. So I'm going to do her part for her, and she was finding out about train safety. And what she found was actually fairly alarming. The first thing that she found that currently there are no safety standards in the United States for running a train any faster than 150 miles an hour. That makes you feel real good about jumping on this thing, right? She also found that Britain's and Chinese high-speed trains were reduced to a maximum of 186 miles an hour due to safety concerns. I mean, these are countries that certainly have the technology and engineering to run a train at 220 miles an hour, but they actually govern them down to 186 for safety. And those concerns of theirs were confirmed by a Professor Peter Woodward, who's one of the world's leading experts on the geoengineering of railways. It's basically the groundwork underneath them. And what he found was this: trains, or anything moving that fast, create what is known as Rayleigh waves, excuse me. And Rayleigh waves are certainly nothing new. They were first discovered in 1885, and basically they're acoustic waves that travel in front of the moving object and cause a rippling effect in whatever material's in its path, be it air, soil, whatever. This is similar to the sonic boom that you hear when something passes through the sound barrier. Well, in the case of railroad tracks, that rippling effect leads to the degradation of the base material under the tracks and the tracks themselves, and eventually to derailment of the train. Other professors and engineers in Sweden have seen this in trains traveling only 110 miles an hour in areas that are very subject to liquefaction. Also, Rayleigh waves and similar other types of acoustic waves traveling through the soil are what is believed to make animals sense an oncoming earthquake. So what she found not only alarmed us, but just kind of served to verify what kind of a big lie they're telling us. They're going to run this thing at 220 miles an hour. The fastest train in the world is only 186. So, and she also found little statistics on train accidents. And these are current accidents, just running your basic Amtrak, Metro Rail trains. It's about 1,000 people die in train accidents every year. Almost 2 weeks there's a train derailment that leads to a chemical spill throughout the U.S. And some of these spills require evacuation of all the local residents. The occurrence and frequency of train accidents has been escalating since 1997. About every 115 minutes, a person or vehicle is hit by a train. And almost half of those collisions are at train crossings. Remember, these are trains, the Metrolink trains are governed to run only 81 miles an hour. So they're killing people just like everything else. So the safety aspects of this thing just are really, really pretty scary. So, that was about this.
Okay. As most of us know, Acton, I think, is a natural amphitheater style with the mountains and everything channeling it. Red Rover especially, it even channels it even a little bit more.
Acton Canyon.
You know, I'd like to say too, if you went to Sand Canyon, I think it was in June, they had a simulation. They had to use, you know, what do you call those, amplifiers. We're just doing this on a little boom box. When I went there, it was probably 4 or 5 times as loud. So I apologize for not giving you the real thing, but I think you get an idea of what it would be.
Before I get into the train, I wanted to let everybody know that the pit stop, barbecue, A+ sanitation, and Ford Nurse Farms on Rinaldi, they all donated something the other day for our ride in the form of the pit stop, the barbecue, and the A+ sanitation. They donated the bathrooms, and then they donated produce for us at the barbecue. So I had cards. I forgot the cards for the farm on Rinaldi, but it's on Rinaldi, just east of Sepulveda. So if anybody gets a chance, you're down there. He's a good guy. He's been a farmer for a long time. Anyways, I want to give you an overview of the high-speed rail and some facts that you may not know, and then hopefully some of the people that are here that don't believe the train is coming through, you'll see why it's coming through, and you'll see why specifically because we are broke that it's coming through. Anyways, the train is going to come out over by the Caltrans yard. It's going to come out of the mountain there. Escondido will be subject to closures. As it comes out of the mountain, it's going to cross over the freeway. As it crosses over the freeway, it's going to begin to take a diagonal route away from the freeway, which will take it a quarter mile up Red Rover. At that point, it's going to be a combination, and you'll see on some of the maps that we have here, some of these maps show it's going to be a cut where the Caltrans yard is. So the mountain will be cut back to where it's nice and flat. Crosses over, it's going to be in some type of channel or viaduct. Once it gets on the other side of Sierra Highway, they're going to the land or the earth that they take from the boring or cutting down the hillsides. That will be used for earth and berm. So it'll be traveling in a concrete channel inside of earth and berm. It will then cross Red Rover in a concrete channel. And anything where the road is crossing is usually about, and if you look at all the overpasses, they're between 14, 15 foot high. That's what this will be. But on top of that, it's going to have a 15-foot high wall. So it could potentially be higher than here. So you'll drive under it, but there will be a 15-foot high wall. When it gets to the other side of Red Rover, there's going to be at least 40 acres that will be gone, leveled out. That'll be a staging area, construction area. So, and they'll probably have construction there 24/7. But anyway, so that's what's going to happen. This is probably some of the most damning evidence I've ever seen. This is called Steel Wheels Magazine, Passenger Rail in California in the West. It's their magazine. So listen what it says when they're asking for a return. And anybody here that has investments, you tell me if this is something you'd buy into. Now, to be honest, they're talking about the train working as a whole, so it might go in the community, but listen to this. Will this community support this train for 30 years, 50 years, or a century so that its original capital investment and its annual maintenance can be assured? You know, it's just not a happening thing. I don't think, but that's why we're trying to, this is just some of the stuff we uncovered, and then just trying to pass it on to you guys. Anyways, the people of California were told they would get a 220 mile per hour electric train. That's really good. And the lady that came and spoke to us, I asked her, I go, how's this train? How fast does this train go? She goes, oh, 210, 220. I told her there isn't a train in existence that goes on this planet. So here she's coming from the state, and she didn't even know what she was talking about. So I go, well, what's the train going to run on? She goes, electricity. I go, no, it's not. No, it's not. The first trains for probably 8 years are diesel. And in this magazine, you know how long they said Britain's been using diesel trains, high-speed trains? Since the 70s. So, now granted, it can't go in a tunnel. So maybe they'll have something by then. But anyways, quoting from the same magazine, the first paragraph, and these are the terms to describe the train. Quite a giant leap forward. This dream. Much of the money will come from investors and not all from the taxpayers. Like most great dreams. And that's just in the first paragraph that they're talking about. And these are the people who are for the train.
Good evening, and thank you everybody for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come tonight. I can't tell you how much that means to me. For those of you that don't know me, he introduced me. I'm Pam Walter. I've lived here in Acton, along with my husband Myron over there, for 24 years. I'm here tonight also representing the rest of the realtors in our community from the Acton and Agua Dulce Brokers Association. I'm going to read this just because I'm not a very good public speaker. As realtors who live and work in our communities, we are passionate about preserving our quality of life. We are very unique communities here. Our families, friends, neighbors, and clients live here. We are proud of our lifestyle and what we have that is so special. The mountains, the views, the peace and quiet, the wildlife, the relatively crime-free environments, and the variety of people who come here seeking what Acton and Agua Dulce has to offer. We know without a shadow of doubt that the high-speed rail will negatively affect our communities, our homes, our schools, our churches, our businesses. To what degree? I don't know. I can only speculate. I can't give you a number or a percentage of what it will do to our property values, but I can assure you that they won't be increasing. Will that number be 50% or less, or even more? Who is going to want to come to Acton and Agua Dulce looking for the peaceful country environment that we all looked for when we came here? It will no longer exist. Who will want their children going to a high school or a middle school with a high-speed train screaming by every few minutes? Again, there goes the property values we've all worked so hard to attain, down the drain. Our wells will be compromised. 50% of the homes in Acton alone have wells. 50% approximately are in county water. How will we get water to our homes as the rail authority is blasting their tunnels under our homes? And can they change, and it will change, the structure of the rock formations, and your well will no longer exist. Some people will be affected by eminent domain, where we know that for sure. That is the government's right to take private property for public use with compensation to the owners. Of course, we're all assuming that means cash. It doesn't. The catchy part is that they don't specify what type of compensation. As we speak, the High-Speed Rail Authority has attorneys working on ways to not compensate people for their properties with money. It's much more creative. One such example that I researched of their idea of compensation is to relocate you to another area within 100 miles of Acton and Agua Dulce. I don't want to sound rude or pompous, but I'm really not interested in Phelan or Mojave to live. I didn't go there. Please join us tonight, folks, and your community in this very valid fight against the destruction of our town.
Jeff has a few more things, a little bit more information for you, so Jeff Hovey.
Just a little bit about the actual construction phase of this thing. Minus the train itself, the construction phase is a whole nother nightmare on its own. If you think this project's not going to affect you because it's not near your home, you're very wrong. It's going to affect each and every one of us every day that they're here. We took a field trip and mapped out where the viaduct was going to run over Escondido, the freeway, and Sierra Highway, and Red Rover. A few people that went on the trail ride the other day saw some of the PVC pipe will be put out there. And they're still out there. If you're interested enough, you can take a run out there yourself and kind of get a look. All the roads that we use daily, including the freeway, are going to see lane closures, detours, and a constant parade of construction-related vehicles. All the big permit loads that you see driving down the freeway at certain times, all that's going to be clogging our local streets here. Your daily commute to work, school, and even a simple trip to the grocery store is going to take you longer. We also mapped out the staging locations for their staging areas. And I'm sure one of them's going to have to be probably at the Caltrans yard. They're going to move them out of there, and they're going to probably do a full closure of Escondido right there near Ward Road. And I myself have worked as a utility worker on a similar project in the past, and they do not care who they inconvenience. They don't care if you're late for work or your kid's late for school. They couldn't care less.
One of the interesting things that we found, just a couple of things before I bring up our next speaker, is we all heard the term liquefaction. Well, there's 2 places in Southern California where it's the most prevalent. Guess where one of them is? Acton. So that's some of the information that we found. Oh, as Jeff was talking about the Rayleigh waves, it's just like, what? And as we start reading it, we're finding out about this, how it's affecting the other trains in Europe. That's why none of them go over 186 or 185, because the infrastructure is breaking down the track, the train, the surrounding area. And it's just like, it's science that they don't know what to do with it because nothing has gone that fast or hasn't gone that way yet. And now we found out about this liquefaction thing. And we just found that out. Kim found it on our committee just a couple nights ago. So it's like every time you turn around, you're finding more and more information of why it's probably not a good idea. And that's why I said earlier, I think that's why they don't want, Caltrans doesn't want them to go under, because they know about it. Because this document, it's not some goofy document buried somewhere. It's right there with the state seal on it and everything. So it's not a secret.
You don't know me. My name is Mark Distaso, and I am a member of the school board here at Acton and Agua Dulce. And to just give you a quick history about what's going on as it relates to the school and the position that the school district is taking. This event started back in 2005 when the state did its initial legally required scoping study, which kind of defines the project, the amount of effort that's going to go on that project, the type of construction is going to be, very technical type of stuff to put you to sleep. They were legally required to notify stakeholders in regard to that. Did any of you ever notice that as far back as 2005? No, you didn't. The school district was never notified of it. I was president of the school board in 2005 and never heard about it. Once they were advised of it, they decided that they must have sent a letter and we lost it. That was their position, and we must have lost it. The first that I got involved in the project, I happened to go to a town council meeting in 2010, just before the summer, because I heard the high-speed rail was going to be making a presentation, and lo and behold, and to my utter shock, one of the proposed rail lines was running as if it was designed that way, running directly through both the middle school and the high school. And they told us not to worry because they were only looking at this from about 10,000 feet. You know, they were just general. And I told them, well, they need to get their feet back on the ground. And if they were on the ground, they would have saw that it was running through 2 schools. After a 5-minute ridiculous argument that that wasn't the case, they finally acquiesced and said, okay, so it's running through 2 schools. Well, they moved it. So now it's only going through the bottom third of the campus instead of the middle of the campus. That is one of the routes that is currently on the board for consideration, and it is the preferred route for the city of Palm.
Mike, I got a lot of voice.
Okay.
Is this 1 track or 2 tracks? One each direction?
You know, that's a good question. It's got to be 2 tracks, at least in this area, because they're coming 2 directions.
Second, I understand diesel electric trains. I know they have exhaust. I know what you're looking at is the diesel is the pollution portion of it. What is their plans for ventilating the tunnels?
Yeah, I think by the time it comes down here, they'll have an electric train, which Mark brought up a good point yesterday with this representative from the state. That's going to be a whole nother infrastructure. It's going to be a whole station and a whole bunch of whatever, electricity and a station to get it there. But right now, once again, I go to my book from the state. Currently, there are no funds to electrify this line or buy train sets capable of 220 miles an hour. So in the future, they have to get this thing rolling, and once they get that stretch in the Central Valley, once they get that up and running, then they can sit there and go, look what we did. Now they hope the investors will come in at that point, and that's where the electric and the infrastructure and electric trains will come in.
I live on Crown Valley above the freeway, and as you know, every winter, when we fire up our fireplaces, you know, it hangs right down here. And if this is venting out of just one end of the tunnel, if we have one end of the tunnel here, and they vent it one direction, it's got to come all to this valley floor. Now, I understand too, if it's all electric, it probably wouldn't be a problem. If they run diesel in there, you know,
I would recommend anybody who has issues such as that, Kathleen, would that email site, if they emailed that site and put all those directions or those concerns on there, will it accept that?
We'll try.
We're here with Scott Griffin at the high-speed rail meeting. So, Mr. Griffin, what kind of an impact would this have on the community from your point of view?
Well, I think it'll have a huge detrimental impact on the community. It'll be a terrible impact on property values, on the style of life here, the living standard that everyone has, on our whole community. I think our whole community is going to go downhill if this high-speed rail is allowed to go through Acton and Agua Dulce.
Now, would any of the proposed high-speed rail routes go anywhere near your home?
Not near my home directly, no, as I live in Agua Dulce. However, we are very concerned about the impact on our neighbors in Acton, and the fact that if Acton goes downhill because of this, Agua Dulce is going to have a knock-on effect, and we're going to have downhill value. We're going to have values that go down just the same as well.
So there's going to be a severe noise impact from this. They're talking 85 to 95 decibels. Do you know how much that is?
Well, I think it's very loud. I think it'll be very severe. Particularly, it'll be loud for those who are near it and for the animals that live that are in this area.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.